the market's ground to a screeching halt. Maybe not a screeching halt, but it's
Yeah.
not crazy multiples everywhere anymore. I've heard in Vancouver and Abbotsford and a lot of
Yeah.
Ontario,
Hmm.
it's you can tell the brakes are being applied. So
Yeah.
you're the expert. What's going on in Edmonton?
Well, it's interesting you say that, Keaton, because I have a couple of different scenarios. I've both seen more pending deals go back to active, where buyers have either not gotten their financing approved or literally got cold feet and decided not to proceed. I'm also seeing purchasers get much more comfortable with, going back and pushing back after home inspections. And interestingly enough, I was actually potentially in a multiple offer with some clients here this weekend, and they just said, no, if there's more than that, an offer on the table, then that's okay. We'll pass. We'll just wait for the next one to come up. So I found that was an interesting scenario because not only did the interest rates go up, Keaton, we're in the spring season, summer season in real estate where there's always new listings coming on. So the inventory is now a bit more flexible. That is an interesting dynamic when you put the two of those together. What do you think?
No, I personally think that there's an opportunity here, and that is for some reason everybody wants to buy when it's very competitive, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a great time to sell.
Yeah.
But I as an example, when we bought our home, we timed it and we chose a market where we had the bigger stick than the seller. No, we
Right.
obviously had to work with them, we had to negotiate with them, but we were
Mm-hmm.
the ones in control. They
Mm-hmm.
had us as their only offer. They got a backup offer shortly after we wrote, but we were able to negotiate the terms we want. We were able to
Mm-hmm.
use our inspection to get a little bit of a price reduction.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, we were able to take the time to buy the home we wanted. I
Right.
think that whenever we see the market slow down or take a step back, buyers should see this as I get to be choosy.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
are I am the hot commodity right now. The buyer is what's sought after. The
Yeah.
problem is in these busy hot markets with, aggressive multiples, sellers don't really care. They're like, get in line.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
sometimes
that
even
the
if
truth?
they're on the offer, their expectations are out of line.
Yep.
You write the offer and they go, we're not going to take it. I've even seen that happen in multiples.
Yep.
30,000 over asking, 3 offers, subject free. Seller goes, we're hoping for more. No thanks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I definitely
Agreed.
think there's an opportunity here. We've
Yeah.
seen that rates increasing did not slow down the real estate market. The
Right.
uncertainty of rates rising did, but the
Mm-hmm.
moment those rates plateaued, things picked right back up.
Right.
So now we've had a little increase in rates, and maybe there'll be another increase. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but we're seeing the uncertainties pop back up. So the market may slow down. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's reasonable to assume that the moment the market or the rates stop rising and things stabilize, we'll see the market pick up again.
Yeah.
Because interest rates tripled, and that wasn't enough to slow down the market. So now,
Right.
if interest rates go from the level that works and they go up from, let's say, 5.5% to 5.9%, I just don't see how fundamentally that changes anything.
Right, right. And there's a lot of things at play here, right? A lot of factors coming into play. Like everybody talks about interest rates like it's everything. And it's only one piece of the puzzle, right? You and I both know that. And when it really comes down to it, yes, it has downward pressure on prices when interest rates are higher because it increases your monthly carrying costs. But at the same time, it's, people go, okay, is this the long-term house? Is this the short-term house? Can we really throw extra money on the table? Or are we going to say, you know what, we don't know what we're going to be doing for the next couple of years. We're only going to take this house if it's a good deal because we're protecting ourselves. The whole adage we talk about as investors, right, Keaton? You got to make your money on the purchase, not on the expectation you'll sell it for more. And so that brings out an interesting dynamic because a couple things I'm seeing here, and of course you can chime in and tell me if you see similar on your end. I'm seeing more people go, hey, you know what? Interest rates are higher. Maybe we can find a seller who wants to do seller financing because maybe we'll get a bit of a break there. Or, hey, you know what? The market's a little bit slower. Maybe we can throw out that offer $100,000 less than what they're asking just to see and just to fish. And so it's interesting how all these things come into play, and we see them every day. My favorite is, when it's a tough market, so to speak, or when people are just struggling in general with making a decision, when you see "we buy houses" signs posted all over your neighborhood. That is an interesting segue into a changing market when you see those signs pop up. See it every year that it happens. It just indicates there's change.
No, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things, but it just goes to show that there is a certain psychology in the market, and different types of buyers will behave in different ways.
Yes.
Investors look for different trends than homeowners. Um, Homeowners being driven by, let's say, changes in the family, like new kids, will have different motivation than people downsizing, will have different motivation than people buying their first home.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to look at where the population is going and realize that things like rising interest rates are like, in some markets, they are building a full blown dam. In
Mm-hmm.
other markets where population trends are increasing,
Mm-hmm.
throwing some sticks in a river.
Yeah.
Because as an example, and I think this is important for locals to realize, people in the Alberta market and the rest of the prairies, potentially even the Maritimes, if your market is significantly less expensive than the major population centers of Canada, an increase in cost in your market relative to those other markets is minor, it's trivial.
Right.
Even though rising interest rates may lead to real estate values going up in Alberta, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
contrary to the rest of Canada, because people are moving from very expensive markets to what are, to them, cheaper markets. So we
Mm-hmm.
could see, if interest rates go to 10%, we may see housing values drop in certain markets and rise in others as
Mm-hmm.
population trends shift. So I
Yep.
think it's really, really important that people realize that none of this is linear.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if you're going to live somewhere for a long time, go try to find a good piece of real estate. Go pay a
Yep.
fair price for it.
Yep.
Own it and profit off it long term. It shouldn't be a speculation game, a timing thing. Leave that to the flippers. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
half of them don't make money anyways. So
Well, they sure put on a good show, though, right? I mean, you got to make it look good. You don't. Nobody wants to look like they're not doing well, and I think that's one of the things too. A good example, even going back to the good old days, Keaton, where you're going shopping, you're a first-time buyer, you're looking for your first home. Interest rates are scary, but you really have no idea what to expect. You've never gone through this before, and hey, we think we found a home we like. We've seen everything. We know what the market has to offer. Mom and Dad want to come and see this one before we write an offer. My favorite, because God bless mom and dad. They should be involved in the process if that's what you want for a comfort and support. But you know what? Just reminder of people, bring mom and dad in the beginning, because when mom and dad come in and they see one house and they have no idea what you're comparing your decision to, and it's already a difficult decision for you to feel like, wow, you're making the leap, you're buying your first home. To have parents or uncles or aunts or whatever, friends even, come in after the fact, when you've already delineated all the good homes that you like best, to have someone come in and just pick apart your favorite one because they have nothing to compare it to, also puts a bit of a stumbling block in the market. That's where we see people going, oh, you know what, the home inspection was pretty rough, I think we got to cancel the deal. It's that whole educate yourself, take your time, be conscientious about your decision, and not as an investor, not as a realtor, Keaton, but you and I, as men, as husbands, as fathers, when you're buying a house, it's not meant to be just about the money. You want to say, how do I want to raise my family? Where do I want to come home to every day? And I think that part is the nice part of the real estate industry, is when the market shifts a little bit and changes and lets people have the ability to take their time and make a decision. That's easier to remember. You're picking a place you'd like to spend your time.
no, absolutely. I think it is a very important point, though, that's underrated, is if there's going to be secondary decision makers in your home buying process, include them early, because they may not understand that you have a budget.
Yeah.
They may not understand what that budget is.
Mm-hmm.
If sure, that's great that the property they just saw, the Joneses buy for $300,000 more than you're going to pay. Of course, it's nicer. It's $300,000 more, but they may not know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They may
Mm-hmm.
not know that you're looking in a specific neighborhood, and because you want to be in certain school catchment zones. And that
Yeah.
specific neighborhood means you're going to pay more for the land, therefore the house will be less nice
Yeah.
compared to, you could go get a brand new 2,000 square foot house in Beverly.
Yeah.
But
That's true. Huh? Yeah.
So I think it's very important that you make those decision makers a part of it. And I also think that for any realtors watching this, or any brokers, as professionals, it's our job to figure out who else is involved in the decision making process and encourage that involvement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's a mistake whether you're a consumer buying a home or a professional. To me, it's a major red flag when someone starts trying to wall off other people that may be involved in the decision.
Right.
There are circumstances where it's like, hey, client, I've observed this. I don't think it's in your best interest. We all have those family members. But at the end of the day, everybody should be given kind of a good initial first impression and given a shot. And hey, if your parents are really important to you, or an uncle or whoever, then involve.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too. And as a professional, Keaton, I think that's some things that people don't realize is I encourage people to say, look, if there's somebody in your family, in your life sphere that is part of this decision, we're not afraid of that. We don't want to push those. As a good professional, I want those people involved. But let's give them a fair advantage in the process of the decision making, like you said, by bringing them in early enough that they can see what you're comparing to. And it's an interesting conversation I have with first-time buyers, even yet again this week, Keaton, that, a couple, they're buying their first home together. Their vision is, we don't like to move. Interesting conversation. We don't like to move. We don't really want to buy a fancy house that's crazy expensive, but we actually want to buy a home that we can grow into, not buy a home that's just suitable now. And interestingly enough, I could already see the dynamics when the parents were involved right away. The parents were actually coming from a different perspective. Well, this home is too big for you. This home is not something that you guys really need all this space. Why would you buy this? And even the parents weren't understanding their goal to not have to move 2 or 3 times in the next 10 years. So it's good when family members can do that in front of each other. That's great for me because I can say, good, I'm glad you're all here. I now have you all on the same page of understanding your differences here. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, it's always a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing, I think that these are the interesting weeks where we will see changes in the market happen in real time. And I think that these types of conversations are important for buyers and for sellers, because this is the leading edge of the data. This is the experience of what's going on today. And that could be the difference of, you're buying a property, you had to compete in multiples to get the accepted offer. Your conditions are going to waive end of the week, but the inspection really sucked. Well, maybe this is these changes are the idea that, maybe it makes sense to go see what else is out there. Or as a seller, they just wanted a $7,000 reduction. You're pissed off, but hey, do you really want to play that game? Problem is, nobody knows the answer. So I think we all have to make the best decisions we can with the information we have.
That's right. And the thing I'll just remind people, using your services to understand what they can afford, Keaton, crucial. I'm seeing realtors this week saying, why is it a good thing when a seller is asking for your pre-approval letter when they're looking at your offer to purchase? Because at the end of the day, you can cancel your deal and change your mind at any time. But if you're shopping within your budget and your pre-approval letter's there, they know it's about the house. And it's much easier on both sides of the negotiations to understand if the house doesn't satisfy your needs. That's one thing. But we don't want to put people in financial hardship or financially bad situation because they didn't do their homework first. I mean, that's such a simple thing, but it's amazing how many people overlook that. So definitely got to get in touch with you so I can do my job.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week, Chris.
Fantastic. Have a good one.
You too.